President Joe Biden's decision to pardon his son, Hunter Biden, has caused a strong reaction across the nation. The pardon erased Hunter's charges for failing to pay taxes and owning a gun without following the law. This has led many to insist that things have crossed the line.
But we do begin tonight with the backlash after President Biden pardoned his son Hunter, issuing a, quote, full and unconditional pardon to his son.
People are questioning how justice is handled when personal and public matters collide. Was this a father's act of care or the right decision to take? The choice has caused arguments about trust, fairness, and responsibility. Now, Biden is under fire by the Republicans. While some of his supporters insist this isn't the first of its kind, as Trump did the same at the end of his previous tenure as president.
We'll find out.
Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Hunter Biden, 54, stared straight ahead and showed little emotion as the verdict was read after jury deliberations that lasted only 3 hours over 2 days in Wilmington, Delaware. He hugged his attorneys, smiled wanly, and kissed his wife Melissa before leaving the courtroom with her. President Joe Biden said in a statement issued shortly after the verdict that he would accept the outcome and continue to respect the judicial process as Hunter considers an appeal. Now, Hunter Biden and Donald Trump, the president-elect, have both been convicted of American jurors in an election year. This made the election much about the courtrooms as about campaign events and rallies. Will this case lead to harsher debate about fairness in the justice system, especially when it comes to famous people? Of course, yes. You'd expect Trump had been an opponent to Biden in the just concluded elections to talk about this. Hunter Biden could have faced up to 25 years in prison, but it wasn't clear if he will serve the maximum time since this is his first offense. Both Hunter Biden and Donald Trump, Joe Biden's main opponent, faced legal problems in the same election year. Surprisingly, both were found guilty, though their causes were different. Trump's charges were based on business matters and actions in 2016, while Hunter Biden's case was with his personal addictions tied to drugs. Both men claimed their legal issues were politically motivated. Trump often said his convictions came from Biden. Hunter Biden argued that he was charged because of his father's position as president. Funny how Biden is somehow in the middle of both cases. Hunter's lawyers suggested that the focus was on who he was rather than what he did. Trump supporters pointed to Hunter Biden's case as proof that the justice system favored those in power. They claimed the Biden family used their influence to avoid severe judgments. On the other hand, some Democrats argued that Hunter Biden faced harsh treatments due to his family ties and the personal nature of his struggles. President Joe Biden avoided detailed comments about his son's case. After the conviction, he said he respected the court's process and made it clear he would not pardon Hunter. LOL, did he actually keep his promise? Hunter Biden was also charged for not paying over $1.4 million in taxes. Prosecutors said the money was spent on things like luxury goods, drugs, and sex workers. Hunter really had all the fun he could get. The case looked at many years of unpaid taxes, with Hunter's lawyer saying his addiction made it hard to manage his finances. Hunter admitted his guilt in the case. The case was set to go to trial, but ended with a plea deal. Hunter agreed to admit to 9 tax offenses and repay the taxes, along with penalties. However, the deal fell apart when the court questioned its terms. Well, I hope you've paid your taxes too. This case added more heat to the Biden family, especially since Republicans have been investigating Hunter's business dealings. They claimed Hunter used his father's role as president to make money, particularly through his work with Burisma, a Ukrainian energy company. Yet, no solid evidence has been found linking Biden to any of this. Of course, Hunter's tax issues caused even more eyes on the Biden election drama. Critics say he's just another example of the spoiled rich kids. Anyway, they could be wrong or right. Supporters, however, point to his struggles with addiction and the pain of losing his brother Beau, and with the 2024 election approaching. It's safe to say this case made the headlines. But hey, it's always fun to see how these things play out in the middle of an election, right? Joe Biden had repeatedly denied that he was going to pardon his son Hunter for his gun and tax evasion convictions, or commute what was seemingly a substantive prison sentence. But on the Sunday evening after Thanksgiving, at a moment when the American public's attention was decidedly elsewhere, he announced he had changed his mind. There has been an effort to break Hunter, who has been 5.5 years sober, even in the face of unrelenting attacks and selective prosecution. He wrote in a press statement announcing his decision. In trying to break Hunter, they've tried to break me, and there's no reason to believe it will stop here. Enough is enough. Well, he initially promised us he won't spare Hunter? Biden's move has already prompted furious claims of hypocrisy from Republicans for breaking his promise and for using his presidential power to protect his son. Democratic Governor Jared Polis of Colorado quickly released a statement saying he was disappointed and that this would tarnish the outgoing president's reputation. Presidents have pardoned family members in the past, of course. In 2001, Bill Clinton issued clemency for his brother's Roger's 1985 drug conviction. So why is this even making the headline? Hunter Biden's full and unconditional pardon was particularly broad. However, it covers his criminal convictions, as well as any future charges for offenses against the United States. This includes 2 years that Hunter Biden served on the board of Ukrainian energy company Burisma and was involved in other international dealings while his father served as vice president. Republicans have alleged that Hunter Biden had improperly benefited from his father's position of power. The president's explanation for the pardon might sound familiar to anyone who has listened to Donald Trump rail against America's system of justice in recent years. Trump, as he exited the White House in 2021, issued a series of pardons for his close associates and allies who had been swept up in the multiple criminal investigations that encircled him throughout his presidential term. In doing so, he bypassed established White House procedures for exercising the broad presidential pardon power. And although he was criticized for the action at the time, there were little, if any, political consequences. Last week, in fact, Trump announced that he was nominating one of his 2021 pardon recipients, Charles Kushner, the father of his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to be U.S. ambassador to France. Kushner had been convicted of campaign finance violations, tax evasions, and witness tampering in 2005, and served 2 years in prison. With Biden's political career drawing to a close, there is little price he could pay for his action. Given that Democrats lost power in both Congress and the White House last month, there are few members of the party in a position of power to face the consequences. If Vice President Kamala Harris had won, her presidential transition would have been derailed at least temporarily, as she would have been pressed to condemn Biden's move. It may have made such a sweeping act by Biden less likely. Instead, the national attention will quickly shift back to the incoming Trump presidency. The rules governing presidential pardoning, or at the very least the processes and established guardrails that had guided its use, appear to have been fundamentally and permanently altered. At this point, there may be scarce grounds for anyone to complain, no matter on which side of the political aisle they stand. The Trump camp was quick to issue a response to the news of the Biden pardon, saying that the president-elect would fix the U.S. justice system and restore due process in his second term. It's something to keep in mind when Trump returns to office, as he is expected to again use his pardoning power to aid associates who have been prosecuted during the Biden presidency, and to free many of his supporters who have been convicted during the January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol. Trump mentioned the January 6 cases when criticizing the Hunter Biden pardon, and he is likely to cite the president's action when he issues his own round of pardons next year. Both sides will continue to accuse the other of partisan prosecutions and governing as though they are above the law. Well, there's another notable story we just heard. Do you remember Trung Malone, the woman that stole a country's GDP and was sentenced to death? Well, guess what happened after she appealed?